I'm Wendy Zuckerman, and you're listening to Science Versus. Today on the show, methamphetamine. More and more people in the US are trying it, and it's got this reputation as being one of the scariest and most addictive drugs out there. Is that true? I feel like basically every message that we get about meth is that it's this uniquely dangerous drug, almost in a category of its own. Like in this government PSA, you see a normal teenager whose life is ruined by it.
I wish my tire had blown out that night. I wish my car had skidded off the road. I wish I'd broken my neck, but I didn't crash. I drove to that party and I did meth for the first time. I did meth, and now this is my life.
And that's the idea, right? That meth is so addictive that if you try it just once at a party, you won't be able to stop. And in the meantime, it'll destroy your life. We hear that meth will rot your gums, make your teeth fall out. I mean, ever heard of meth mouth? And even worse, apparently after using meth, your brain will never be the same again.
Some people, they just lose it.
Research shows that taking methamphetamine, even just a few times, can impair your brain and movement for life.
And I should say that not all meth PSAs went for the scare the hell out of you approach. I do have to play this bonkers ad that my editor remembers hearing a lot when she grew up in the Midwest.
Look at me, busy as a bee. Where'd I get all this energy? Oh, man, man.
But even this busy bee, who's frantically cleaning her house with a toothbrush, ends up in bad shape. And if all that wasn't bad enough, watching the news, it seems like we're in a meth epidemic, with this super addictive drug only getting more powerful. This month, the New York Times wrote that meth is more dangerous than ever.
We are in the midst of a crisis when it comes to methamphetamine.
It's more destructive than any other drug.
Law enforcers are starting to see the emergence of super-powered versions of meth.
Experts say it's more lethal and it causes extreme psychosis.
But something here doesn't quite add up. Because, as scientists kept telling me, meth is an FDA-approved drug. Did you know this? In the US, it's used to treat ADHD, and it can be given to people 6 years and older. Children. We're giving meth to children. So today on the show, is meth really this horrendously bad drug where one hit will get you so addicted it'll ruin your life? What exactly does meth do to our brain and our body? When it comes to meth, there's a lot of
Oh, man, man.
and then there's science. Science versus meth is coming up just after the break.
During the Volvo Fall Experience event, discover exceptional offers and thoughtful design that leaves plenty of room for autumn adventures. And see for yourself how Volvo's legendary safety brings peace of mind to every crisp morning commute. This September, lease a 2026 XC90 plug-in hybrid from $599 bi-weekly at 3.99% during the Volvo Fall Experience event. Conditions apply. Visit your local Volvo retailer or go to explorevolvo.com.
Welcome back. Today on the show, meth. So right off the bat here, there's this idea that the new meth on the street is like meth on steroids. It's sometimes called super meth, and headlines are screaming that it's a monster. It's actually not a new drug. Meth is still meth. But for a while now, it's been produced in a different way. And a big thing is that it's cut with less crap. An analysis of meth samples in the US done by the Drug Enforcement Administration found that in the late 90s, the purity of meth that you'd buy on the street was about 20%. Fast forward more than 20 years. On average, it's almost 97% pure. That is Walter White level pure. So now, let's find out what meth, just meth, is doing to our brain. And I really wanted to understand just what it felt like to take meth. So I had these awesome conversations about the highs and the lows of using meth. So here's how they described what meth can feel like.
Meth makes your whole body kind of tingly instantly in like a nice way. Almost like glistening. Almost like Edward in Twilight. You know, he's in the sun and he's just like kind of glistening. That's kind of how you feel on meth.
And I felt very on alert. Everything was heightened. I was wide awake, probably not blinking as much as a regular person.
I remember just being like really horny, wanting to be like touched and like kissed and like, all of this like really intense kind of like feeling of like me wanting to be with this guy in any way possible.
Oh wow, like it just felt like it unlocked everything, every pathway in my head. I remember feeling socially perfect, no anxiety. It just makes like all of your best parts better.
It feels like it's just turning on the happy in your head.
So how can meth make you feel this way? Turn on the happy in your head. I talked about this with Professor Martin Paulus, scientific director at the Laureate Institute for Brain Research. And he loves studying meth. He loves watching TV shows about meth.
Breaking Bad is my favorite show.
Really?
I love the show. We actually have a paper that has the subtitle, I'm the Danger.
So Martin told me that meth releases a bunch of chemicals into our brain, like adrenaline and serotonin. But a biggie is dopamine, which is kind of like the feel-good chemical. And meth does this pretty cool stuff to get dopamine really working in your brain.
It essentially makes a drop of dopamine seem like it's an ocean of dopamine.
Normally what happens when you do nice things that bump up your dopamine, not meth, but let's say you have a little sex, you eat a little chocolate, you get a little dopamine hit.
And so the dopamine system turns up the knob a little bit, and you say, oh, wow, this is really something.
Time passes, and then
the dopamine is sucked back up into the nerve cell, and it's basically gone, right? And so that you get the little blip, and it's gone. What methamphetamine does
is it floods parts of your brain with dopamine, but then
it stops that sucking up.
And the fact that then it stops it getting sucked back, so the dopamine will hang around for longer as well.
That's right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so literally you get this flood of dopamine that comes out of nowhere, and everything seems like great. People who, even the first time they do that, they say it's like 100 times an orgasm.
Studies in rats have found that meth increases dopamine in a part of their brain by more than 1,000%. Compare that to cocaine, which bumped up dopamine by a measly 350%. Meth also crosses the blood-brain barrier really quickly, so if you're snorting, injecting, or smoking it means you can get high super fast. Plus, that high can last for hours, some 8 times longer than coke. So that is part of the reason that meth can give you this incredible high, because it's flooding your brain with dopamine. Dopamine also helps you focus and pay attention to things, which is why a little bit of meth can work as a medication for ADHD. But feeling that huge happy in your head, it doesn't last forever, because like other drugs, your brain builds up a tolerance. Dopamine works by binding to all these little receptors on your brain cells. But as you keep using meth, your brain takes some of those receptors away. So here's Martin, our neuroscientist again.
So you get the dopamine, but there's nobody listening on the other side, or fewer receptors listening, so you don't get the same effect after a while, right? It's no longer like this incredible hit, but now it's like a little poof.
So that is why you might not keep twinkling as bright as a teen heartthrob when you keep using meth. But then our next question is, what are the risks here? Because people say that meth can break your brain in all kinds of ways. And one thing that a lot of our listeners were worried about who had used meth was how the drug had affected their memory. And it is true that when you're using a lot of meth, or soon after you stop, it can screw with your cognition and memory. One paper said it was similar to what you might see in folks with alcohol use disorder. You can even see abnormalities popping up in brain scans of heavy meth users. Now, it's not that noticeable or bad for everyone, but one guy I spoke to who asked us to call him Enough, he's used meth pretty much every day for the last 4 years. He told me that these days his memory is shot.
Everything in the past is not really there. It's just fog and haze, and like one of my work best friends, I can't even remember how we met. And I had to tell her that the other day, like I really don't remember how we met.
But what a lot of the scary meth news articles out there don't tell you is that if you stop using meth, your brain can at least partly recover. Studies show that even after long-term heavy use, once users stay off meth for, let's say, 6 months, a year, their scores on cognitive tests improve, including their memory. Over time, some areas of the brain itself even start to look more normal. Martin told me that this is good news here.
The point being is there's enormous regenerative capacity in the brain. I mean, there are limitations, but there's a tremendous amount of regeneration that can happen.
In the longer term, there are some other things to worry about though, like meth might put you at an increased risk of Parkinson's disease, which is a disease related to dopamine. But the big thing that you hear a lot about when it comes to meth is that it'll make you go basically psycho, where you start seeing things and hearing things. One of our listeners, she asked me to call her Tina, started off just taking meth with friends to go dancing on the weekend. She'd party all weekend on this big binge, and on her way home, sometimes she'd start to see things.
What would happen is when I was driving home, out of my peripheral vision, I would swear that I saw someone walking up out of the woods and like walking towards the road. And then as soon as you shift your vision over and you look directly at them, they're gone because they were never there in the first place. But yeah, I saw many shadow people.
Did you have any other hallucinations?
Oh yeah, there's a video of me somewhere that a friend took trying to catch bugs. They were not there. There were no bugs there.
For another listener, we'll call him Theo, after he was using meth for a couple of years, when he was high, he would get into this really creepy headspace.
You know, I couldn't leave the house or drive because I was so paranoid. You know, I had like blankets covering all of my windows and I would just like stand there.
Why?
Because in my mind, I like knew somebody was out there watching me. You know, I don't know who it is. Maybe it's the cops or I don't know. And I would hear voices. I would hear my neighbors talking shit about me. And I'm just like, oh my God. And, you know, I would turn my phone off and like turn electronics off because I knew there was like trackers and everything. And it was so intense and it was just so dark.
Collectively, all of these symptoms, hallucinating, getting paranoid, this is all called meth-associated psychosis. And researchers say that it can look indistinguishable from schizophrenia. And I called up Jennifer Shear, a neuroscientist who did her PhD on this at the University of Cape Town in South Africa, to find out why it happens. And she told me something that most scientists studying meth didn't tell me.
I love meth. I really, really enjoy it.
Have you tried it?
Yes, I have. I have tried it. Like, I totally understand why, like, somebody loves that drug.
Jen used to go to these dance parties in South Africa, and she tried meth a handful of times. How much were you thinking about your own experience as you were writing these studies?
All the time. All the time. Yeah, whenever it says, like, oh, euphoric experience, I'm like,
Did you worry about your brain as you were writing about all this neurotoxicity?
I mean, yeah, there were times where, like, you know, when you get really stuck and you can't think yourself out of a hole. Like, oh, maybe I took too much. Like, did I f my brain up? So I can't finish this thesis now.
Jen's joking here. She was actually never that worried that taking a bit of meth a handful of times would stop her from finishing her thesis, largely because of that research that shows the brain can recover. Anyway, we got to talking about why meth can cause psychosis. And she told me that some of what's going on here is probably from sleep deprivation. Meth can keep you up for days if you take enough of it, and that can make you go loopy in all kinds of ways. But something else is happening here too. So right now, you are probably not on meth, and your brain cells are communicating, sending signals to each other in this orchestrated dance that allows you to listen to this podcast and not to think about other stuff swirling around your brain. But because meth has these powerful effects on different chemicals in our brain, Jen says that it can scramble that dance.
Right, and if you're not communicating properly, the signals get crossed.
For example, a really important thing that your brain does is that it inhibits or shushes certain signals. But meth stops some of that from happening, so all of a sudden you're seeing things and thinking things that you wouldn't normally be. Like,
what about these satellites that might actually be, controlled by the FBI or CIA? Thoughts of like, I'm a pretty cool person. Like, you go from I'm a very cool person to I'm God, and why wouldn't I be God? And you start creating those stories, and the brain just can't inhibit them and stop them at a point. Everything is allowed to just.
And so studies find that quite a lot of people who use meth, we're talking maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 2, will get meth-associated psychosis. But this is an experience they'll have while they're high. Those thoughts should go away pretty soon after meth is out of their system. So Tina, she only saw shadow people while she was taking meth. And Theo only got paranoid like that when he was using heavily. It is worth pointing out, though, that there are some unlucky folks who still get psychotic episodes even after they've stopped using meth. And they can actually end up with a diagnosis of schizophrenia. What's frustrating is that we don't know the chance that this will happen to you. Researchers told me that it's rare, but your risk goes up the more meth that you use. Now, if you are worried about getting schizophrenia, some research suggests that cannabis might be even riskier than meth. So, where does this leave us? Will meth break your brain? Well, while you're using it, it can give you psychosis and make you go a little bonkers. But for a lot of users, if they can stay off meth, then their brain should actually get better. But that is if you stop using meth. So what's the chance that if you start, you can stop? That is, how addictive is meth really? That's after the break. Plus a short pit stop at Meth Mouth.
Meth is bad. It's gonna rot your teeth out of your head.
Coming up. Today's Ask Me Anything is brought to you by Amazon. Whether it's delivering medication to your door with Amazon Pharmacy or 24/7 virtual care with Amazon One